All right. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this webinar where our friends from Homes and Villas by Mario are going to show us how to master a five-star service. Right. My name is Maria. I'm the VP of Product at Hostaway. You usually see here Marcus, but today Marcus couldn't make it, so I'm the responsible for giving the introduction. Hopefully I'll do well. And today I'm joined. I'm happy to be here with Laurie Klapacz. She's a senior manager business development. Senior manager in business development from Homes and Villas, and she's gonna walk us through everything that we need to know about selling successfully at Homes and Villas, right? A few reminders always on these webinars. We are recording the webinar, so don't worry. It's going to be available for everyone in the coming days on our YouTube channel. And also, please, as I mentioned, introduce yourselves in the chat. We love to hear from everyone and where you guys coming from. And but to make question, I really ask you to use the Q&A function, not the chat, because it's going to be a lot easier for our friends from Marriott and myself actually to answer the questions through the Q&A rather than in the chat. All right, maybe to the Laurie, can you give yourself a brief introduction as well?
Yes. Thank you so much, Maria. We're so happy to be a part of this. We appreciate your hospitality. My name is Laurie Klapacz. As Maria said, I lead the North American business development team for Homes and Villas. Been with Marriott for over 25 years, with time spent in the property hotel sales side, the global accounts sales side, and then my last 5 years with Homes and Villas. And it's been an absolutely fabulous journey so far into vacation rentals, which was new to me 5 years ago, and a really exciting brand with a unique offering for our Marriott Bonvoy guests. So, go ahead, Maria.
Awesome. Yeah, we have this little introduction of Hostaway. For those of you that don't know what Hostaway is already, Hostaway is the leading all-in-one short-term rental software for property managers. We have around 240 people. We are a full 100% remote company, and we have people's presence in around 41 different locations across the world. We're also very proud to be official partners and keep the highest partnership statuses with the most important channels, including here our friends from House and Villas by Marriott. So with that, I think we can get started.
Thank you. If you can go to the next slide. So, as a trusted hospitality company with almost 100 years in our business, we have a lot of experience with guest service, and we're always working to improve the Marriott Bonvoy guest experience. So, we want to share a little bit of that expertise today with our presentation, Delivering Five-Star Service with Homes and Villas by Marriott Bonvoy. So let's start by highlighting the Marriott guest. So meet our Marriott loyal travelers. Over 90% of the Homes and Villas reservations are made by this group of Marriott loyal guests. So the demographics represent well-educated, high earners who have families and own their own homes. They have a desire for meaningful, premium, and luxury travel experiences with exceptional guest service. They typically take longer trips and are accustomed to paying a bit more for these stays in order to earn and redeem Marriott Bonvoy points. So let's do a quick poll. If we go to the next slide. So, do you know how many members worldwide are part of the Marriott Bonvoy loyalty program? Let's do a quick poll here. And if you could answer.
I know, but I'd be cheating.
We need some TikTok music while we wait for this. Just take a guess if you don't know. Maybe some of you are Marriott Bonvoy loyal members yourselves and you do know.
Sergio Baños say 1.6 billion.
Wow.
That feels like a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. Good guesses. Everybody kind of went for that 198 million. Let's go to the next slide, please. And so here we've got our answer. So Homes and Villas has put a lot of time and effort into analyzing feedback and data to understand our guest behavior, identify trends, and work with our property management partners for solutions for improvement. So most of the content we're going to share today comes from that wealth of data and the processes we utilize to collect it and create solutions with our partners for our mutual guests. So here's some key figures. Those of you that answered 228 million, ding, 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 you are right. We have 228 million members, and our loyalty program hit an important milestone recently, surpassing 200 million members. This reflects the popularity of our program and its global reach. We continue to expand our travel offers and benefits with a vast portfolio of brands and experiences, Homes and Villas being one of them. So here's some more data points. 12,000. Homes and Villas' current live inventory now expands over 12,000 cities across the globe, with about 180,000 curated properties live. And just for context, we started this journey in 2019 with 2,000 properties. So we've experienced some crazy growth. 1,400 plus homes. Our inventory comes from the select 1,400 property management companies that we partner with in over 70 different countries. So the data that we collect in conjunction with our property management partners has granted us the capacity to do market-based analysis to identify city and country trends that help us better understand how different expectations vary from location to location. And then finally, 33,000. Since the launch of our partnership with Medallia's guest response program and guest research, we've received a total of 33,000 guest surveys. Most of the content that we're going to cover today is based on the last 2 years of data. If you could go to the next slide, please. Great. So how does Marriott keep these well-traveled guests engaged and loyal so that they return to Marriott brands over and over again? So at Homes and Villas, we collect data by sending surveys to each guest 24 hours after their checkout and solicit feedback from their stay. So in this survey, there is one question that Homes and Villas feels is our key performance indicator. And that question is, how likely are you to recommend this home's rental experience to a friend or business associate? So this is what we call our intent to recommend, or ITR score. So if a guest is recommending another guest to use Homes and Villas or is willing to return themselves, we are further winning in this space. Can you go to the next slide? So when we talk about intent to recommend, or ITR, we set the bar high. We don't just want guests to recommend us, we want them to recommend us enthusiastically. We are hard on ourselves. Well-seasoned travelers expect a seamless experience. So this is why we only consider scores of 9s or 10s as winning when we calculate a property manager's intent to recommend score. So a strong ITR not only reflects guest satisfaction, but also starts to indicate their loyalty by showing if a guest will return or recommend for a future stay. Consistency is everything when it comes to building loyalty. ITR, intent to recommend, leads to repeat stays, recommendations, recommended stays, and that leads to new bookings, which, as we know, is key to growing a successful business. So the next slide.
And Laurie, maybe if I can interject here a little bit.
Absolutely.
Is these data available to our hosts?
Yes, great question. So when you partner with Homes and Villas by Marriott, you do have access to the Medallia guest response program, and you will have not only access to all of the feedback that comes back, but the ability to communicate directly to the guests through this system, which is really key. Great question. Thanks, Maria. So this slide gives us a visual to help highlight why we only consider 9s and 10s successful ratings. So the 1s to 6s, these are your detractors. So they probably had something go wrong during their stay, some kind of an issue. Their overall experience was a negative one. They're most likely to talk poorly about their stay once they return home. 7s and 8s are sort of passives. They're not bad scores, and they probably had a good time, but maybe nothing stood out to them as making their stay memorable or really exceeding their expectations. If you ask them, maybe they'll recommend, but they're not likely to actively, proactively, and positively promote their stay experience once they return home. 9s and 10s, these guests are the ones that are going to actively promote you. They're going to recommend for future stays and most likely return themselves. So how do we achieve 9s and 10s with our intent to recommend? The next slide, please. Okay, so this is what we refer to as the quick 8. This is basically a roadmap to a perfect stay based on all the feedback that we've received from Marriott Bonvoy guests. So these 8 points, when you embed them into your company culture, are going to yield significantly higher ITR scores. It's going to help get those scores up to 9s and 10s. So let's review each one of these. Transparent listing accuracy. So when you're collecting guest data, you're undoubtedly going to uncover pain points, and you're going to uncover some that are out of your control. For example, road construction, slow elevators, neighborhood noise levels, that type of thing. So proactively educating guests about these with transparent listing descriptions and honest pre-arrival communication will level set their expectations prior to arrival. We know that success in short-term rentals is very much connected to guest education. So a strong pre-arrival experience. Train your team to gather relevant information about guests during the reservation process. Things like special occasions, dietary preferences, room preferences, specific reason for their travel. This is going to give you golden nuggets of information that you can use to achieve personalized experiences, which, if you understand what guests want and you act on them, you're going to be ahead of the game. For example, with number 3, congratulating someone on a birthday or anniversary celebration, that kind of a thing included in a welcome message, it's a simple way to start earning the guest loyalty. Number 4, warm, genuine check-in. So we know this isn't always possible with vacation rentals. So, in lieu of a face to face check in, ensure that you're proactively reaching out to each guest shortly after their arrival. You can do that with a courtesy call, a welcome message, something that where you're interacting directly. It should be warm, welcoming, and personalized using the information that you've collected with your pre arrival conversation. Showing interest. Proactively asking what their plans are during their stays and providing personalized recommendations for things like local attractions, dining options, whatever activities you've uncovered that they plan to engage in with their stay with you. Anticipating their needs. As you proactively ask questions during pre arrival, showing their interest during the check in call, you'll be able to speak to the guest about what's important to them. Make sure you're listening. Make sure you're working to help them answer questions of like frequently asked or answer questions if they don't specifically have any things like Wi-Fi password, thermostat instructions, things that guests have asked previously so that you anticipate what they might need. Be attentive and showing empathy. When you're speaking to guests, make sure you're listening. Make sure you're understanding. It's important for guests to feel like you're truly you care about what they have to say. You're present in the moment when you're engaging with them. Encourage them to talk about themselves, talk about their interests. This is going to help you to do things that are going to help enhance their stay. Repeat back important details and important information. And if something is going wrong, let them know that you're sorry about that. You feel their frustration, you understand the situation, and you're there to help them. And then finally, expressing gratitude. Make the guests feel important. Let them know that you value their business by acknowledging things about them. A great way to do that with Marriott is to acknowledge their frequent guest status with us, their Marriott Bonvoy status. Never take them for granted. We all know guests that feel taken for granted are more likely to take their business elsewhere. And then I can't say this enough, just expressing gratitude, thanking them for their stay is really a simple way to not only leave a positive impression, but again, earning that loyalty. So, so we know it's not always possible to hit all of these points with every single guest, but if you can nail at least 80%, it's going to greatly impact in a positive way your overall intent to recommend. And to be truly guest driven, you need to work to embed this kind of a process and these kind of training points into your company culture. Next slide, please. Okay, let's look at some guest feedback that was collected via the Medallia Guest Response Program for a property manager who lists with us and is also connected through Hostaway. So this property manager joined us mid 23, and they've placed focus from the very beginning of our partnership on reviewing guest feedback, paying attention to their intent to recommend score, with the goal of constantly improving that. Their 2025 results show a 30% increase in their score and some really amazing comments from the guest feedback. So a few things that this particular property manager does to keep their focus on guest experience. They're passionate about providing personalized guest experience, each guest. It's not always easy to do, but if you can get passionate about it, it's going to make a big difference. They are very committed to supporting their guests throughout the planning process, as well as during the stay and afterwards. They offer concierge services. That goes a long way with guests when they're in a new destination, especially. And then they're looking to expand their portfolio, which most property managers are, but they always do so carefully with quality as a priority. And then they also use the partnership with Homes and Villas as a leverage to get more new homeowners. So that is something that we hear over and over again from property managers, is that being connected with Homes and Villas sort of gives them a leg up with attracting new homeowners. And then finally, we hear from this property manager that they've been working on guest feedback since the day they launched the partnership with Homes and Villas, and they look at every single comment and respond to every single comment, whether positive or negative, through the Medallia process, the Medallia survey response program, and then work to make sure that it gets consideration so that it doesn't happen again, and the next experience is even better. And their guest feedback on this slide reflects this in the survey comments. So this property manager nails guest service. So here's what their guests said about their stay. Property managers respond to every question and request immediately. So if we go back to that quick 8, that's covered in point number 7 of being attentive. Another comment, super responsive and helpful. That kind of goes back again to being attentive, but also number 5, showing interest. Another comment, communication prior, during, and at the end of our stay was perfect. And this goes back to number 2, strong pre-arrival communication. And then finally, most accurate home rental in ages. Okay, who wouldn't love to get that comment from a guest, right? With a 10 score to go with it. So this is the type of service and experience that our Marriott Bonvoy guests are looking for when they stay in your homes. Achieving a 10 intent to recommend score, it is possible if you just kind of get back to the basics and follow a program like the Quick 8. Okay, next slide. So, do you have a process in place for measuring and prioritizing the guest experience? Just curious if people can raise their hand if they do or don't.
I think maybe um, if they feel okay with it, maybe share some of their experiences on the chat as well, and what they're doing well, what is working well for who, and maybe also taking as a learning for others as well.
Yeah. Okay, so let's while you guys are doing that, let's talk a little bit about how to use the data and feedback that you do collect from your guests. So, you want to use guest feedback and the data you collect to determine where your problems exist. And the best way to do this is to find themes and categorize common issues. This is the best way to, set up training and response back to guests. You're going to uncover pain points. This slide illustrates some of our most common feedback from guests. Some of the issues are going to be in your control. And for those, you can anticipate and remedy those to eliminate repeat occurrences. Build that into whatever is necessary with your training or your processes. Some issues are going to be out of your control, but as we said, if you can anticipate these and communicate expectations to the guest, that's going to help immensely. For example, we talked about it in the Quick 8, transparent listings and strong pre-arrival communication. So let me give you an example. One of the most common themes that we get from guest feedback comes from a discrepancy between pictures and reality upon arrival. I'm sure we've all received that feedback at some point. Remember, success in short-term rentals is really about educating the guest. So, some recommendations for that. We recommend an ongoing review of your inventory, updating listing descriptions to very smoothly mention wear and tear. Okay. It's not easy to do, but again, being upfront and having transparency there is really going to help level set the expectation. Make sure you have updated, professionally taken photos that represent the property accurately. And I can't emphasize enough on the professionally taken photos. I really think it goes a long way when you've got, a professional in there that's using lighting and staging to make sure the property is represented in the best light. And then implementing a preventative maintenance plan that includes home inspections and that also includes, so this would in your inspection, make sure that you're looking at the property through the lens of, do my photos and listing descriptions match what I currently see in this inspection? Again, I can't emphasize that enough because there is a way to sort of smoothly mention that kind of wear and tear. So again, this goes back to the quick 8, that first principle of listing accuracy. So next slide. Okay, this is an example of a property manager's brand audit measuring service standards pulled from the quick 8. So basically, what this property manager did is they collected data, they uncovered pain points and opportunities for improvement, and they put together a audit that's going to keep the focus on measuring and focusing on these identified issues. So they're going to be able to train their staff to look for this, to respond for this. They're going to be able to put new processes in place that address some of these issues so that they can overcome them and they're not a repeat occurrence. We definitely have a saying within Marriott, what gets measured gets done. You need to make sure that your staff has full transparency into what the standard is and has the opportunity to meet those standards and understands when they potentially miss those standards. Okay. And next slide, please. So, does your team use guest data feedback to implement process changes that will impact guest satisfaction? Again, you need to ask yourself this question because using a brand audit or a similar process is really going to help keep the guest experience in focus for your entire organization. Next slide. Okay, so inevitably, things are going to go wrong. And when they do, remember, learn. So, this is Marriott's acronym for our service recovery model, and it's used in all Marriott international brands. Listen without interruption, listening carefully to the guest concern helps you fully understand their perspective. And understanding their perspective is the key to empathizing with them. Acknowledging their feelings, showing that you really care about their experience, and you're going to work with them to work through it. Apologize. Apologize for any inconvenience or frustration they have experienced and be sincere. An insincere apology isn't going to go anywhere. It's really has to be that you understand where they're coming from, you're empathizing with them, and that will help you deliver a sincere apology. take action. When you respond to them, you're taking action to their concern. Your action might resolve the issue, it might provide additional information that they need, um, or it might just be the first few steps to helping them resolve their issue. There are gonna be times when you can't fully resolve their issue, when they come up, but you would at least be able to prevent similar situations from happening in the future. And then finally, notify. This is so key. We talked about communicating to the guest is so key. Keep them informed about an ongoing resolution. Um, please, be transparent. That's how you start building trust, and that's how you start earning loyalty. And then finally, on this one, empower your staff to make decisions that benefit the customer without always having them go somewhere for approval. It's really going to help the guest feel confident about your organization overall, and it's going to foster a culture of guest service and proactivity. And that is definitely going to be reflected in your intent to recommend scores. It's part of Marriott's culture to teach all of our associates to always put themselves in the guest's shoes. It just really helps with, helping them connect to each guest. It's done wonders for our guest service delivery, our intent to return scores, and it's created a fierce loyalty from our Marriott Bonvoy guests. We have trained this model into all guest-facing roles, and it definitely works.
Sonora.
So that is it for us.
Laurie, there are a few examples here, nice examples on how people are keeping these 5 stars. Kathy
I would love to hear them.
Yeah, Kathy Kelly from California says, we respond to every review request. We make sure that if there is an issue, that it gets handled, anything regarding repairs, suggestions, etc. So definitely being on top of what is needed is a great way of achieving the excellence here, right?
That's excellent. Congratulations, Kathy. That's great.
Awesome. And then Heather Boylan from Florida, I believe. A few things we have in place. I have made a book, I guess a guidebook for each of my units that have information on the home itself, things to do around the area, things to do in rainy weather, Wi-Fi information, restaurants, etc. She sends out this book prior to arrival, as well in a welcoming email with all the services that we offer, such as a grocery service, so they're able to plan ahead. So that's very much what you said about the check-in, understanding the guest, and
Yes.
making sure they have a very good check-in experience, right?
Absolutely. And I wanna point out, like, the part about the rainy weather, something totally not in our control, right? But way to get ahead of level set the expectation and get ahead of possibly when someone gets there, the weather isn't good, what am I gonna do? So that's brilliant.
Awesome. There's also Sergio Baños. I don't remember where Sergio's from. Maybe he's from Spain with that name. We use all the feedback of reviews through ChatGPT, basically to improve the listings information and potentially fine-tune operational processes. So it's a great use of AI.
Yeah.
Hear about more about Hostaway and the features that we're gonna offer on this will help you actually use AI to achieve this kind of level of great descriptions, excellence. We already have some of those products. Sergio, yes, he says from Spain, but based in Cabo San Lucas. Nice.
Ah, I love Cabo. Love
Ve-
Cabo.
So, thank you, Laurie, very much. I think there are a few questions here that the team has been responding as we go along. Maybe a reminder, because if I saw a few common questions regarding what happens if you have less than X amount of properties, right? Are you able to list in Homes and Villas Marriott? The basic answer, you're gonna say this a lot better than me, but it's there is a limitation on the number of listings, right, that you can connect through Hostaway, but the Marriott team will look at your listings, so you can contact them. I think, maybe we can post here the email where you can reach out to, also in the chat as well.
Yes, that would be great.
I can okay, I'll do it in a minute.
Yeah,
And
that's
you can actually you have less than 20 properties, you can actually contact the Marriott team, and they do an assessment of your properties, and then, the decision will be made if you can, actually list on HMB.
yeah.
Um,
So,
yep.
if I can just interject for a minute. So, it's very much based on market. We sort of are moving away from a blanket threshold and have made it market specific based on what we know, um, will be successful in market. And we talked a little bit about that in the presentation, based on guest feedback and, based on what we know about demand and market trends. We've tried to get, more specific by market.
Awesome. From Hostaway, you can integrate directly with a HMB, start advertising HMB. We have an integration with Marriott since 2021, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So I think so totally encourage you everyone to advertise in HMV. There are a few things that you need to know, and maybe Asad, if you don't mind showing these slides for our customer support team, because it's super important that you guys, everyone that's worked with Hostaway feels supported, and there are so many things, different things that you need to know for every different channel. That we have the best customer support team to make sure that you are successful, right? So just contact us on support@hostaway.com, or if you want to speak to someone, we are super happy to connect with you on the phone. We live here, um, a calendar how do you call this? A Calendly URL where you can actually book 15 minutes with one of our customer success managers, and learn everything that you need to know on about HMB, and be successful in selling that. So last thing, maybe register for upcoming webinars. Thank you very much, Laurie, for your time. It has been great.
Thank you, Maria. I really appreciate the hospitality, the partnership, and collaboration we get from Hostaway. It's a great connection for us.
Absolutely. And likewise, definitely. Um, all right. So thank you very much, everyone. Register for the next webinar, and looking forward to see everyone.
Thank you.